Well, good. Well, it's 5 o'clock. Mary, what do you think about getting started?
I think we should start right now. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
ready.
Yay. Wonderful. Well, I am Cynthia Cohn, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am here live from my living room with a special guest joining me for this week's Fireside Chat. And as many of you know, I own a boutique residential real estate brokerage right here in Pasadena, California. I am very, very proud to lead such an amazing group of women. I'm a women-owned residential real estate brokerage in the state of California, one of the very few. And as my real estate career has grown over the past 20 years, so has my passion for protecting and caring for and creating really maximum results for my clients, who of course I treat as I would my friends. There's really no other place than I'd rather be than right here with you. One of my favorite parts, and I did want to say about the fireside chat before I introduce Mary Winters, who's here with us today, is that I do not have a fire going. The fire is there. And maybe I need to change the name of the every other week fireside chat to something different. But for right now, we're just going to keep it at that. So one of my favorite parts of owning this business is really bringing people together and serving as a trusted resource to my network. And I started hosting these fireside chats as a way really to do just that. So each month I have been inviting an expert to come on who is an expert in the field, really to join us in answering some really important questions and in hopes to give you really insight into more nuances about different industries and different markets and things that are going on. So far, for example, we have had a friend, Cal Anton and Jan Thompson, who Mary, I know you know. We talked about the 2021 residential real estate market. We've talked with Kieran Dillon about how to purchase a multifamily apartment building. We spoke with Dylan Crampton, who is a terrific agent up in Vegas, talking about the Las Vegas real estate market, because I've had a lot of friends thinking about maybe moving to Vegas. We had Phil Barbaro here, and we talked a lot about why everybody needs some sort of estate planning. And we also had Lisa Kerrigan here talking about the fundamentals of accessory dwelling units. And then we had Yulana Isham, who is another woman-owned brokerage in Phoenix, Arizona, talking about the Phoenix market. So it was fantastic. And this week we have Mary Winters joining us. And Mary is the founder of About Senior Solutions. Mary has over a decade of experience in business development aspect of healthcare. So while physicians and nurses provide really the medical recommendations, Mary really understands the other side of healthcare, the confusing maze of healthcare options and the unknowns. So she's really has an extensive knowledge in acute care, hospitalization as well, psychiatric issues, Alzheimer's care and dementia care, hospice, assisted living, and other senior care options. She's really the guru as it comes to senior care. A noted speaker and advisor, Mary's provided expert services to really a wide variety of seniors in every economic category, and really her ability to accurately pinpoint and guide families as they deal with the emotional, life-changing events gives Mary really unparalleled insight. I know for me, she's a resource to me and my clients, so I'm just so happy to have her here. And as you can see, she just has a plethora of experience. And she's really here today to just share so kindly some of her knowledge and advice with us. But before we jump in, I'd love for Mary to share a little bit about herself before we start. So Mary, please introduce ourselves. I would love to, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how you got started with About Senior Solutions, and let's get it started.
Well, thank you for having me, Cynthia. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate the way you work with seniors too. It's so important. It's a little more sensitive sometimes, and a lot of years in a home, and so there's a lot that goes in that's very special. And the way you handle senior is fantastic. So I appreciate what you do, and just talking a little bit about what I do or why I started what I do. I have worked in healthcare, oh gosh, probably 25 years now. And my dad got sick it's been over about 15, 16 years ago. And in the process of him going to the hospital and already having exposure and experience with business development and contracting and working within hospitals and several other different types of settings, I thought, if this is time consuming to get the right resources and to make sure that he was taken care of and wasn't, I don't want to say taken advantage of necessarily, but just make sure that he was dealt with appropriately, his insurance covered him appropriately, and every step of the way he got everything that he needed. If that was complicated for someone who had loads of experience in the industry, what was the average person doing? I just felt like they were not being taken care of. So we started About Senior Solutions, and it's evolved over the 14 years that I've had the business, but we have a fantastic team. I have Jenny Delgado as our Director of Client Services with us, and Jenny Jolly as a care manager. We're looking for some new staff too. We've had some people retire, so we're looking to add to our team. So we're excited about that too. But we love being able to walk people through this process. We laugh in a way and say, we just want to roll the boulder off your shoulder, but this shouldn't be as stressful as it is. And we can solve things in minutes sometimes that people are spending hours and hours and hours and hours trying to research or figure out if that's the right path or not. So we created a model where we look at what the person wants, what will keep them safe, and what they can afford, and create a plan and move that forward.
I think that's so great because so often, I mean, I feel like families, and especially so many families live across the country or in different states or different areas, let's say even of LA. You could live, 60 minutes away and still be
Sure.
in Los Angeles County.
Sure, or working or having to have a family and working and just one more thing to pile on top of yourself. And I think the people who look to us for support most are the people who really need that kind of team expertise to work with. And sometimes it's just kind of coaching them and guiding them through a process, and then they kind of take off with the direction that they need. And sometimes it's really doing the work for them, doing the heavy lifting and taking them through the process. So it really just depends on the family and the individual, but it's a hard thing to get through. We want to make it easier for people.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like, with your company, how did you actually, and with your experience that you had with your dad, those were the fundamental building blocks for building About Senior Solutions? And did you just kind of start on your own? How did you actually start the company though?
Yeah, it was on a concept, just feeling like this is something that I need to do for other people. And honestly, it also made me feel like I could spend more time and have more flexibility with my family. I was working tons of hours, not that you don't when you're working for yourself, but I just felt like it was the work I needed to do. It felt like a mission to be able to support people in this way and to grow awareness. It's also been a huge thing or something that's been very important to me is to educate people about things before they get to the point of it being a crisis. So often we deal with people in these transitions or very critical, horrible situations, and we are swooping them up and taking care of whatever that emergency might be. But I want to also educate people on how to avoid the emergency, which is really important.
Which is, we're going to talk about your visionary aging plan, which I think is really amazing. So I know that we, created the title for this, really worried about an aging parent living at home, and hoping today to really, also talk about those resources that are out there for families that may have an aging parent currently living at home, still maybe very independent. However, what things to really look at and to think about so that their parent can continue aging safely in place and having the support they need for not only people to be around them and to support them, but to ensure that they have what they need in their home and they have the cognitive good challenges to continue being safe and being able to live independently for as long as possible.
Yeah.
So tell me, go ahead.
Well, a lot of it's based on whether or not somebody has good decision-making ability too, even after they have some memory loss. So, but go ahead and ask your
well,
question.
okay, well, let's just start a little bit about your visionary aging plan. And when is that let's talk about it. Let's talk about why is it important to create a visionary aging plan for yourself or for a parent that may be down the line, of course, moving towards needing a little more support.
That's a great question, and different people are going to be in a different space depending on their age or the resources that they have, or the medical issues, or maybe psychiatric or cognitive issues that they're dealing with. So the age kind of doesn't matter as much as maybe the need. And really where we start is looking at, what do you want? What do you want for yourself? Things change over time, so the plan changes as well. But what do you want for yourself? What do we need to do to keep you safe? And within that, what is your budget to be able to put together? And we can put a plan together instead of just kind of pasting a Band-Aid on the situation and just, oh, we'll try this, oh, we'll try that. But I think if you do that with anything, you do that with a vacation, you do that with a wedding, you do that with your finances. When you're planning things, you plan it out, you put a plan together, a game plan, a timeline. And you need to do the same thing with your wishes. And sometimes it may not be working with me, it may be working with your estate planning attorney. And within your estate plan, you can even have someone like myself, a care manager, involved in your estate planning process. And with that, they can help your son or your daughter or your trustee, whoever it is that's going to be making decisions on your behalf, to get through processes much easier. But stepping back, you may not be far along in that process. So I put something together called GIFT. It's an acronym for planning, really. And I think when you plan for yourself, it's a gift for yourself, because you have more choices when you plan. It's not an emergency, you have more control. There's so much benefit to having a plan put together, when that starts with the estate plan. So going back to the idea of gift, it's a gift to you. And it also is a gift to the people who have to make a decision for you, because it's so great to say, this is what mom wanted and this is what we're going to do, versus, I don't know what mom wanted. What do we do for mom?
Right.
So we start with G, gather information. What do you want? What is it that you don't want? Sometimes that's the better way to solve the direction you want to go in. And then we know from the exact opposite of that, I want to stay at home. I don't want to go to a nursing facility. That's very common for people. So what do we need to do to plan for that? And then I inform those that need to be part of the plan. Maybe that's your decision maker. It should be your attorney. Maybe your financial planner should be involved in that, your CPA. So you should have your little team kind of compiled so that you have that information that you want for them to start organizing your plan, especially your estate plan. And then F is follow through on those documents to completion. So often people know that their parents put a plan together, but they don't have the document. They don't know who the attorney was that put the plan together. So essentially there's no plan.
I know.
Or people.
Yeah. I was just, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, then that's where that BandAid effect comes in, that all of a sudden you need certain things. You need the power of attorney, but mom is no longer competent. You know, you need to sell the house. I mean, just all these things that start coming up, and all of a sudden you're like, gosh, if we had planned and had everything set before, you know, we'd be able to make these decisions really easily. And instead most of us are doing it this way, right? It's just for sure. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so that is that. So then what is C?
So sure. So and sometimes they just get a draft and think, I don't know if I want to do this or do that. So it is important to stay focused and complete those documents. And then T is tell the people who are going to make your decisions where those documents are, and sit down and talk about what is important to you. I've had clients sit down and go as detailed as I had somebody with ALS say, and young, and say, I know that if I get crabby or weird, my socks are probably twisted. So please check my socks. Just all kinds of little conversations that she had with her friends and family prior to her being able to lose her speech, so that they could really detail more of what she wanted. So And sometimes you don't want to have your child have that file right away. So just at least tell them that it's with an attorney or it's in your right side drawer of your desk, so people
Mhm.
know where to access the information.
I like that. So the G part, really talking, what did that stand for again?
Gather information.
Gathering
Uh-huh.
information. For that
Mhm.
part, are you talking more about the estate plan and the advanced directives and all the components of estate planning?
I think you can use that process with several stages.
Uh-huh.
It can be with your estate planning process. It can be with selecting whether you want to stay home or not. It can
Uh-huh.
be deciding if you need to renovate your home. It can
Mhm.
be you always have to gather even if you buy a car, you
Yes.
need to know, what
Yes.
kind of car do I want to buy?
Yeah.
I'd like a blue car. Well, do you want a Volvo or do you want a
Yeah.
Mercedes Benz? So we
Mhm.
have to really drill down what we want before we can actually make those decisions final.
Yeah, I love that. So this is like an organized plan. Someone can call you and say, "Hey, I want to go through your visionary aging plan. Can you help me with that?"
Sure.
Oh,
We
I
even
love.
have, it's kind of fun. I don't know if you've done it or not, but we
Well, I
have,
mean, I have parts. I think there's some of us probably listening that have parts of it. I have my
yes,
estate plan done. I probably could be better to tell certain people where it's located
sure.
and
Yeah.
etc. But that first part of it, the gathering the info and thinking about really what would that look like in
Mhm.
regards to staying home, or do I have the financial capability to do something different? I think is really very interesting. And having that, I think the thing I love about it is really it's opening conversation with your loved ones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes people still don't want to have those conversations, but at least if somebody knows that you're the that you've elected them as the decision maker and they know
Yeah,
where to go to get the paperwork, at least do that.
yeah.
That is very important. Otherwise, we see lots of conservatorships because of the lack of planning or communicating sometimes too. So it's very important.
Yeah, that's scary. So I know we titled this "Worried about an aging parent living at home." So I know the visionary aging plan would be something we would do before some of these worries start occurring.
Mhm.
When you have an aging parent, currently living home independently, but you are, let's say, the child, and you live here wherever you live, but you're starting to be a little concerned about your parent, what are some important resources in the marketplace that are available?
Well, it really depends. It depends on what the specific worry might be. So sometimes they're as simple as, I think I need to protect my mom from falling in the shower. So I need to head to Home Depot and get something set up for that. Maybe you just need a safety check in the house and make sure everything's figured out there. We're avoiding the crisis. It's all about avoiding the crisis and
Uh-huh.
staying in control, avoiding the emergency. Um, what are some of the other things? I mean, watching for signs. Are you seeing their hygiene go down? Are you seeing them change in their weight?
So
Are
when you say
you,
hygiene, what do you mean? What are some things that we should look for when you're visiting with a parent
um,
that might be red
well,
flags?
sure, sure. Sometimes they may be have been very fastidious in the way they manage themselves and they shower daily. Their hair is beautiful. His clothing is always intact and he is maybe not in a suit, but he's in a nice button up shirt. But when you see behaviors change very dramatically, that's a concern. When you see dings on a car, that's a concern. When you're seeing mail pile up, that's a concern. When you're seeing appointments being missed, sometimes physicians or dentists may call you as a secondary person as the adult child, and you're getting those phone
Mhm.
calls. That's something to be worried about.
Yeah.
And two, physically, are we able to still do the same things? It's really interesting. I have a 95-year-old client right now. She's amazing. And I have other people in their 30s and 40s who cannot do the same things that she does, but her house is impeccable. She has no housekeeper. She has a gardener who does a mow and blow, and she does everything else. It's amazing what she does. And we're able to use more technology with her to keep track and make sure that she's safe. versus other people, we may need something completely different where we need caregivers. So I think assessment is really important. The other thing that's kind of fun is if you go to our website about seniorsolutions.com, we have a really fun, like 2-minute quiz you can go on and see how far you are in the planning process. And we'll give you resources depending on where you fall in your planning, and just help you kind of get started. I remember years ago, it was my dad who encouraged me to put an estate plan together. And I said, I just don't know what to do because my children at the time were minors. They're all grown up now, but they were minors. And I didn't know who I should have take my children if something happened. And he just said, Mary, just start somewhere, start on an easy part that's something different. And after that, just then you can use that as the last thing that you do with the kids. And it just helped it to flow and move things forward. So I have my dad to credit about Senior Solutions for almost every step of
Wow.
the way here, or even my
Yeah,
personal
yeah.
life. So
I've been thinking a lot about that because I've lost both of my parents. I lost my mom in 2001, and my dad had multiple sclerosis. And so he stayed in the home until like for 2 or 3 more years after my mom passed away, but it was too much. So I had to go through him going, selling the house, going through all that, moving into a continuing care retirement facility. And I do really use that experience. And then, of course, unfortunately, both of them have passed away. But I do really use that a lot as I'm out meeting with families, just because I've just been there. I know.
yeah. And I think the people who plan or wanting to educate themselves a little bit more are like you or myself, where we've been through it and you don't want to do it again. You don't want your kids to go through it. But the people who have never experienced it, or they have just a really challenging, willful parent, or very extremely independent who just won't allow any kind of support. And those situations are tough. And those the
Yeah.
scenarios where we can come back in and coach on the backside, or just help so that we can kind of balance that difference between the worry and the willfulness.
Yes.
And
I love that word coach for you, because I can see, I even have friends working with you right now, and I see you as that, like coaching. Okay, let's talk about where the greatest challenge is. What can I do to support you? Here's some ideas. Here's some more resources. So for people that are in home, and I know we talked a little bit about some of the resources, but how do you actually create a safe environment for an aging parent? What are some things to think about and to do in our home to make it safer?
yeah, so safety can be physical safety and walking around. It can also be the neighborhood, the outside, the external forces around our homes. We need to be safe that way too. And we may have had a change with one of our spouses, or say our vision or our hearing. So all of those things can also make us more vulnerable. But really, a safety check is a great thing. I'm happy to send a safety checklist to people if they're interested.
Okay.
But in addition, I think the bathroom is probably the number one location where accidents happen. In addition, we have accidents that take place all the time in the kitchen. Sometimes those are matters of forgetfulness, or and let me tell you, I mean, I've forgotten that I boiled eggs on the stove sometimes too, and thought, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I came back and checked in here. But every situation is a little bit different, and every home, as you know, because they have different features and so forth. So we may have stairs, we may not have stairs, we may have bathrooms only upstairs, or just a partial bath downstairs. So that makes it more complicated if we're not able to use stairs. So there's so many little nuances, but I think the biggest thing is balance, balance, and balance.
Okay.
And
So definitely
hazards in the
bars.
kitchen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely bars and handles and railings.
And throw carpets that we may need to get rid of, at least
Yeah.
temporarily, especially if
Mhm.
somebody's shuffling their feet more. It's much more likely
Okay.
that they're going to stick their foot
Yeah.
under a little throw carpet. Anything that doesn't have a skid kind of texture under a throw carpet, we should reconsider that. Really easy. I've had some clients be a little concerned that we were putting a grab bar somewhere, and then they were so thankful later. They said, I realized I really I really need it. I'm really glad it's there.
Mhm.
Sometimes we need equipment at the house. There are chair lifts that'll take you up staircases. There are shower heads that you can change so you can sit down on a shower chair. There are bedside commodes. There are all kinds of great things as far as technology too, just letting us know that you're safe in a house or
Mhm.
not in the house.
Right,
So
right,
you know
right.
if you're going to be okay when you're out too.
Yeah. Oh, those are some great ideas, Mary. And then else about like financially? What are some considerations that families should be aware of?
Well, it's expensive to have care in your house. And there are balances with that as well. It's fine to hire somebody privately, but you are the employer of record in the state of California. So there are guidelines that you need to follow with that. And
Oh,
there
oh, can we stop right there? Where did we
Sure.
find those guidelines?
Well, a labor law attorney is a great place to go
Okay.
to, but definitely wage and hour changed in 2015.
Mhm.
So technically, unless there is there's a formula as far as a daily rate to
Mhm.
pay a caregiver living at your house who is taking care of you.
Mhm.
But it's expensive. Let me just say that if you are using a bonded insured agency, it's about $275,000 a year to have round the clock care. So if that's the case, that's something that you want to talk to your financial planner about. Maybe long term, you need to realize how much, if you want to stay at home, do you have to look at a reverse mortgage? Do you have, how long will that spend be so that you can keep your assets maybe for the well spouse?
Mhm.
Is it a situation where, maybe you're good for 3 years or 10 years or 20 years? Everybody's situation is different that way.
Mhm.
And sometimes I had one lady who was 95 years old. She had many chronic illnesses. And we sat down, she wanted to stay in her home, so she was going to do a reverse mortgage. And we told her with the equity and the amount your house is valued at, you would have about 6 years for your to use these
Mhm.
funds from the reverse mortgage. And she said, that's not going to be long enough. I think I'm
Mhm.
going to move. And I
Mhm.
said, what? You'd be 100 or more. And she said, no, Mary, my mom lived to be over 100. And I thought, well, she knows what she's talking about. And if she was concerned about that and wanted to stretch out longer, and you
Yep.
know what? She was right. And she made it just around almost to 100.
Oh
And
my
she
God.
just barely outlived her money.
And where did she go?
And
Did she stay in the house with the?
she decided to move. She sold her home and she decided to move into an assisted living, which she really liked. And they were able to provide some extra resources for her there with extra care, and take her places where she wanted to go.
Oh,
So
that's great.
she lived a nice, charmed life,
Yeah, no,
spending
that's
time with
great.
her
But she just
daughter.
had to deal with capital gains when she sold her house.
Yep, and that can be an issue too.
Yeah,
But she really needed that money. Everybody's situation is different. So some people
exactly.
do hang on to
Exactly.
those houses and maybe they'll do a reverse to avoid the capital gains. But
Uh-huh.
some people they can't avoid that. They really do
Yeah,
need to sell. So it's going back to that whole wishes, safety, and finances, and how
yeah,
do we put that plan together?
yeah. So a question for you. I know it, well, now I know it's $275,000 a year for round the clock care. How much does it cost a year to live in an assisted living?
It completely depends. There are lovely boarding cares. Those are little homes that may be right in your neighborhood. They usually have the capacity to have 6 residents there. And they may be in the San Gabriel, LA area. They may be closer to about 4,500, definitely up to 12,000, some of those. And then they have others that are larger, known as assisted livings. They all are assisted living, and they may have 100, 150 rooms there. And they're usually, just depending on how close you are to what area. Beverly Hills is going to be more expensive. You go out towards Upland, it's less expensive, but that's still about the same, about 5,000 to about $12,000, depending, and a month. And Then you have the CCRCs that you buy into, and that's kind of a different, it's probably a
Mhm.
whole different kind of discussion as far as how that works. And
Right.
but it's a nice continuing care community where they have all the steps
Yeah.
for care and services for you.
Yeah. Well, there's so many, financial considerations. And I know that I've had a couple of friends that have, thankfully, and they feel this way too, that they have the ability to stay home and be that caregiver. What
Sure.
type of resources are available for family members that are no longer going into a job professionally, but they are full-time caring for a loved one at home?
Yeah, well, first, I think you have to replenish yourself. So I think, however you can find that outlet for yourself, and thankfully COVID is opening up too. So sometimes people, um, there's things. Sometimes people take their loved one with them to an event, like CAPS is open now.
Hmm.
They're an adult day program, and they do have caregiver support group meetings in the evenings, and they can bring their loved one during those meetings. There are other organizations that do the same thing. There are caregiver support group meetings at senior centers.
Hmm.
There are opportunities to do adult day for people on Medi-Cal. Um, it's definitely something that I encourage caregivers to do. Find that little moment before your person wakes up, or to meditate, or to read something that's comforting for you. Take a break when you can. I had a brilliant nurse, and I don't care what age you're at, advice to take care of yourself, whether you're a mom, a young mom with a newborn baby, or whether you're a caregiver of an older adult. You have to replenish yourself to be good and stable for that
Yeah,
person you're
yeah.
caring for. And a nurse told me before I had my first son, this is over 30 years ago, she said, Mary, if you're only fitting 10 things in your day now, you're only going to fit 10 things in your day after the baby comes. So I want you to decide what you're going to let go of.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's a
Don't worry
great.
about the laundry on
Yeah.
certain days. It might have to go out extended. Take a nap when he takes a nap. You need to take care of yourself. It's so important. And with caregivers of older adults, we often see that they wind up having a medical episode prior to the person who's sick. So we wind up having another emergency. And sometimes the kids don't know how bad dad is because mom's been covering up his memory loss or his
Mhm.
physical decline.
Mhm.
And it's lovely and amazing when we have couples who have that true heart and cherish of till death do us part. But it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. You can always reach out to organizations, to Senior Care Network. There's so many in the LA area.
Mhm. Mhm.
Alzheimer's, LA, they have tons of resources for people and support groups. Some of them are Zoom, HMRI in Pasadena, Locking Out a Presbyterian Church. There's so many, I could
Oh
just
my
go on and
gosh,
on.
that's so great. So wonderful. And I will definitely, we're just going to wrap up soon, but I definitely want to get your contact information out. And if people listening today have questions about anything aging, please, you can direct them to Mary, and I will go through that. But I know we have one question. Tori is going to tell me what our question is.
Okay.
How has the pandemic impacted the needs of your clients?
How has the pandemic impacted the needs of your clients?
That's a great question. So the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, we were open, we were working on taking people from emergencies and just stabilizing their situation, and then enhancing their quality of life by whatever was appropriate for their plan. And this isn't just seniors, that we have some younger clients who may have psychiatric or brain traumatic brain injury, all kinds of different scenarios. And of course, when we had COVID, especially if somebody was living in a community or a facility of some kind, everything's shut down. So while we initially were rushing to make sure people were getting food and water and medications delivered and appropriately cared for, We weren't even seeing some of our people in assisted living because we just couldn't. And from there, we have noticed a huge decline physically, cognitively, emotionally. People are starved to connect. And we saw some people pass away because of that lack of connection and so forth. So right now, I kind of feel a little bit like a mother bird and kind of trying to push people when appropriate to head on out of the nest a little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let's see what kind of services we can add and get you built up physically more. Do we need, I mean, we did have some people doing some therapy on the phone and that sort of thing, which was great. But what things are we lacking? What things do we need to build back into your world now so that we can go back to that life enhancement of what is so important for people so that you feel
All
like you
of
have
us, Mary.
purpose and
Yeah, all of us. I think
yeah.
all of us need that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
absolutely.
I really love that. I think that that's one reason you know, that we've talked about the inventory levels and how low they are. And there's many contributing factors, but I think one of them is that, you know, we just really have just retreated in, especially if you're older and have been thinking about maybe downsizing.
Yeah.
Or making that move into assisted living. Just, you know, people weren't really wanting to move and just sort of,
Oh, yeah.
you
And
know,
some people weren't even able to
ex-
accept somebody to
exactly.
move into their
Yeah.
building. It just couldn't happen. And then in December of last year, 2020, we wound up having a huge rush of people getting sick again. And it shut down the doors of a lot of visits and the possible opens. And
Mhm.
so it was challenging for not just the seniors, for the staff that was trying to care for them, and everybody was feeling pretty depleted. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
we're heading out of it.
Me too. Me too. And Mary, I'm just so grateful for your time today. I consider you a good friend. And I
Thank you.
really also consider you like the person I would lean into for anything senior. And I really love that the way you approach your business is being a resource. It's really giving, and
Yeah,
it just really shows your character and in your integrity. And
you.
it's just always a pleasure working with you.
Thank
It
you.
is.
And you're the
So,
same way. You're not
oh,
a
thank you.
pressure salesperson. You're just
No, not at all. We're
the
here to.
level, the height of the support and the professionalism that you have. It's nice to have friends and colleagues and referral sources that really jump in, and not just jump in, they just dive in and just say, what can we do to make this really a great
Absolutely.
situation?
Yeah.
So
Because these situations, I mean, they're not about us, you know, we're
right.
here to really be of service to our clients. And
Yep.
we want our clients to be the heroes. I don't
Yeah.
want to be the hero for my clients. I want my clients are the ones doing, I'm just guiding them and helping them and supporting them and making sure they're protected, cared for, and that they do get the results they deserve.
Yeah, well, and it's so important because especially as an older adult, if you're not maximizing the value of your home, the sale of your home, I mean, it can mean another year in your home.
Absolutely.
It can mean some kind of extra support that you really deserve and need and should have. So when you're the strong advocate as you are, then you know that the person's going to get everything that they need, and it's going to maximize their result, and that's really important. That's really
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. So, Mary, anybody on this call would be interested in connecting with you. What's the best way to reach you?
Sure. They can call at 626-359-0108. That's our office line, and Ginny will probably answer the phone. And they can also reach out to me on email at Mary, M-A-R-Y, at About Senior Solutions, S at the end of solutions, because we have more than one sometimes, .com. And yeah, and it really just depends on what the person wants. That's how we design things and get things going for them. So it's all about you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, to everybody listening to this, either now or in the future, if this conversation interests you in any way, please just don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can call me, you can email me. I'm at 626-714-6808. 6808, say that. And then also you can email me at Cynthia at cynthiacohn.com. And I'm always happy to connect you with Mary if you have any questions or have any questions at all about the market. Again, I'm Cynthia Cohn. I am the owner and broker of Cynthia Cohn and Associates, really one of LA's very few women-owned real estate brokerages. To us, there's nothing more important than you and your goals. And our mission is really very simple here at Cynthia Cohn and Associates. It's really to provide you and your family world-class protection, heartfelt care, and the results that you need and deserve. Okay. And so if you're interested in selling or buying a home, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here as a resource to you all, just as Mary Winters is. And I'll be sending out an email for those of you on the call with Mary's contact information as well. So thank you again for joining our Fireside Chat today. I hope to see you all again on Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. I actually have Tony Phillips joining us. We are going to be talking about some interesting discussions about using your primary residence as a way to avoid capital gains taxes if you are older and you're ready to scale down, but you're still married and you do not want to have to pay thousands and thousands in capital gains. He's going to be talking to us about a 1031 exchange strategy. So I hope you can join us, and I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thanks, Mary.